And the latest sports news has it that Nigeria's under-20 boys Flying Eagles defeated their Ghanaian counterparts 2-0 in the opening match of the Group B of the WAFU B U20 Championship in Niamey on Sunday, scooping all 3 points and putting a foot in the semi-finals of a competition from where the zone's flag-bearers to next year's Africa Under-20 Cup of Nations will emerge. Now, you do recall that the Super Eagles of Nigeria bundled their chances of going to the World Cup in Qatar by not having defeated the Ghanaians in a match that many expected that there will be victory and sounds of jubilation. But this time, the under-20 side decided to do it for Nigeria. Well, there are a lot of celebrations, no doubt you could say, but one thing stood out. Ibrahim Mohammed put the Nigerians' noses in front after only 6 minutes, and the 7-time African champions showed composure, confidence, and calmness as they dominated the black satellites easily. Adams Olubi could have made it 2-0 for Nigeria towards the end of the first half, but fluffed his lines after a good team move had carved open the Ghanaian rear guard and left him with only the goalkeeper to beat. However, the goal line stood at 2-0 as Nigeria celebrated. It was indeed a good outing, and like I rightly said, many are indeed happy that what the Super Eagles couldn't do, well, guess what? Yes, the junior side did better. And that's one story that's definitely making everyone talk about it, especially this Monday morning. Well, let's focus this time on African players who definitely are looking forward to a wrap-up in the season of various leagues across Europe. Let's start off first and let you know that yesterday it wasn't all uhuru for Liverpool. Yes, of course, all through, especially when many were counting down, looking at the fact that Manchester City came out tops. 5-0 against Newcastle was one way that they could prove a point that even though we have left the UEFA Champions League, we will ensure that the English Premier League is ours. Well, Liverpoolians are indeed worried if there will be a chance for the Africans to play for that side, talking about Mohamed Salah, not forgetting to the likes of Sadio Mane, also not forgetting Keita, just to mention a few. Well, this morning I do have a football commentator who joins me this morning all the way from the United States. Alson, thank you for being here on Breakfast Central. Andrew Alson, it's good to have you this morning. Let's start off first with that big game that happened this weekend, where our focus is definitely shifting on Africans who are doing amazingly well, especially on the international scene. Now, also, we did see Mohamed Salah, Sadio Mane, and the likes just on Saturday. We were expecting that they would get a win, of course, top that point and put a lot of pressure on Manchester City, but it didn't happen. That's the truth. What do you have to say about Man City coming back this weekend, 5-0 against Newcastle?
Incredible effort from the citizens. You know, they've had moments in the past where they failed to perform in the UEFA Champions League, and you figure there might have been a bit of a hangover from the midweek defeat to Real Madrid. But Pep Guardiola had his side ready for the massive occasion, and they knew that there was no margin for error this weekend, and so they delivered an excellent performance.
I can imagine that. But let's take a look at the fact that the dreams of Mohamed Salah picking up the Premier League once again this season seems to have been shattered. Most importantly, the other Africans who also play for that side. But do you think that the attention for Pep Guardiola, I beg your pardon, for Jurgen Klopp has indeed shifted to the UEFA Champions League? What do you think?
Well, I think Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp, they're looking to win as many competitions as they can. They haven't given up on the Premier League. Man City still has a bit of a difficult schedule at the end, a couple of road games. But I would say, yeah, for the time being, you know, the attention shifting to the FA Cup final coming up, as well as the UEFA Champions League final as well.
All right, let's take a look at other African players. Let's focus on Leicester City and Everton. Yesterday, we saw African players slug it out for both sides. And don't forget that, as you know, it's a tough one for that man who is fighting relegation, no doubt, with Everton. And we're talking about Frank Lampard. Now, we had players, Nigerian decent. We're talking about players like Alex Iwobi, who he fielded and ensured that they put up a strong performance. Aside that, Leicester came out smoking as well. Kelechi Iheanacho, not forgetting to the likes of other African players who also are there to play for Leicester. This time, it was indeed tough for Leicester. Why didn't they actually pick up a win yesterday? Or could it be the fact that Frank Lampard was even more determined?
Well, it looks like Everton have really found a second sign of life here at the end of the campaign. We tend to see that at the end of the season from teams that are really facing that threat. And when it comes to Everton, it would be a historic relegation for them. And so I think you're seeing them really putting up their last bit of fight. And I think at the same time, you're seeing Leicester really worn down from their campaign in Europe, making it deep into the competition. But I think you're seeing them kind of suffer from the ill effects of match congestion, at the end of the season. And I think that might have been why we saw Everton come out with the victory.
What did you make of Patson Dakar's performance, not forgetting to Amate, who ensured that they could try as much as possible to pull through with a win, but amidst the difficulties, if you put it that way?
I think Daka has done tremendous. Considering the circumstances, he didn't come right in and start. And you can see a good amount of players who come in on a transfer like that to such a big occasion, they kind of struggle once they get those few opportunities. But Daka's really taken his opportunities well. I think he's really setting a good platform for next season as Jamie Vardy continues to age. And I think we can expect to see some big things from Patson in the coming years.
All right, let's quickly move to Arsenal now. Without Thomas Partey in the midfield, of course, you had these young boys who are going further with the likes of Bukayo Saka and not forgetting to Nketiah. And Nketiah seems to be a machine that's on the move and definitely is unstoppable. What do you make of Arsenal coming out strong and ensuring that they clinch that top 4 spot?
Arsenal, you can't really disagree with anything Mikel Arteta's doing at the moment. It seems like one week Arsenal supporters are all on his side, and then the next they're ready for him to be sacked. But lately, it's been nothing but good news for Arsenal, and I think they just continue to look great in the attack. They come out hard, they come out ready to go, and I think we saw that against Leeds. They just continue to really bring the heat in the attack, and they really kind of overwhelm Leeds on this big occasion.
I can imagine that. All right, we wouldn't go without talking about Chelsea as well in the English Premier League, where they have Africans who are also there. Edouard Mendy, not forgetting to Hakim Ziyech. These guys have tried as much as possible to prove instrumental to the team, but it seems that Chelsea is indeed going through a tough time where they are indeed struggling to maintain that top 4 spot. What's your take on this?
Well, it's amazing. Earlier in the season, Chelsea was so reliable on defense, and that was really a cornerstone of how they were able to get results even when their attack was sputtering a bit. But now they're really kind of struggling on both sides of the ball. And, I'd say, their European campaign kind of wore down on them a bit, like I discussed with Leicester. And I think in the end, their attack, they really needed to find some goals through Lukaku, through Christian Pulisic, through Mason Mount. And they've had these players show up at various stages during the season. But right now, I think you just see some fatigue at the end of the season. And I think the combination of that with their defensive frailties coming to light is really showing in these results that they're getting lately in league play.
I can imagine that, no doubt. All right, so we've taken a look at the Premier League. What's your take as the season wraps up? How would you give a scorecard that shows that African players did do well in Europe, or do you think they actually have some more work to do?
Oh, I think things continue to look better and better for African players in England. Like I mentioned with Patson Daka, I think I really think he took his opportunities well when they came to him. Even though he had to deal with the high expectations of arriving from Red Bull Salzburg. I mean, you look at Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah, they might be winning a UEFA Champions League this season. I think that amongst other players, you look at Thomas Partey, really bouncing back this season before injuries kind of put premature into his Arsenal campaign. I think it just the future continues to look brighter for African players, and the present looks great now.
All right. We've seen the German Bundesliga wrap up, and we've seen a great array of football players who have definitely proven that they are indeed spectacular. We're also taking a look at the Serie A as well, where you do have Real Madrid, who've definitely clinched that one. Celebrations will, of course, still had to play with Atletico yesterday. But what are your thoughts on the Africans who definitely are indeed played for the Serie A?
Well, I think there's plenty of Africans who are making substantial contributions. When you look at when you look at AC Milan, when you look at a couple of the other teams like Napoli, you look at Victor Osimhen at Napoli. Napoli, it looks like they're going to fall short of reaching the championship, of winning the Scudetto. But you look at Osimhen coming back from his facial fracture and looking quite strong. I think he's building a very good platform for next season, and maybe he can look to keep Napoli at the top if he's not bought up by a bigger club. There's been plenty of rumors for Victor, but I think us African players will continue to contribute in Serie A for the years to come, just like we're seeing in the English Premier League.
I can imagine that. Well, I wish there were more time. We could take a look at other leagues across Europe and continue to analyze the fact that players are indeed doing absolutely well. I mean, I'm going to say that kudos to the guys, the Africans, who are indeed representing on the big stage. But one last question for you, Andrew. Let me ask you this very quickly. Do you ever imagine or fantasize seeing an African coach taking on a top side in Europe?
That would be quite the achievement. As we've seen, we're seeing some signs of African coaches who could potentially make the breakthrough, but that would be really the next frontier, so to say. I really hope we see it sooner rather than later, because there are plenty of African coaches out there who are talented enough to take on the reins for such a massive occasion. And you never know how it'll go, but I think there's definitely a few candidates out there who might be able to seize the opportunity in the future.
All right, but maybe to put you on the spot, let me put you on the spot lastly before I let you go. Who's going to win the English Premier League?
Ooh, Joe. I think Manchester City, they're just looking unstoppable right now. They just do incredible when it comes to the Premier League. They have a couple tough road games coming up, but this challenge that they dealt with at Newcastle, bouncing back from the UEFA Champions League, shows that Pep Guardiola's got his side focused and ready to get the job done, I think.
Great one. Thank you so much, Pan-African football commentator Andrew Olsen. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, so there you have it. We've taken a look at the leagues as they get set to wrap up. Not all of them, so to say, but as time progresses, we'll do a recap of what to expect as most of the leagues are indeed wrapping up, and the African players are indeed getting ready to lace off their boots this time and unwind and relax ahead of the World Cup. Now, we're talking about those who definitely have qualified. But stay with us. We'll have more sporting updates for you at 10:30, where you'll be listening and watching the best of sports in the game. That's what it's called. Onyechi will be here to bring to you all the latest. Well, my time here is done, and I'm sending it back to you guys in the studios. I'm talking about Osaoge and Olive.
But your time is not yet done,
now,
Joe,
Olive, tell
because
me
I want to put you on the spot.
Olive, tell me I didn't get that name right this time.
You got it. You got it right. I can't deny. But I want to put you on the spot, Joe.
What's it?
You had asked him what his prediction is for who will win the English Premier League. I should ask you the same.
Okay, who's going to win the Premier League for me? No doubt it's Manchester City. I'm going to give it to Manchester City because as it stands, their attention is no longer divided. They are now focused on that league, and they will do all they can to ensure that they win it. For Liverpool, the attention is indeed separated. They do have the FA Cup finals to play with Chelsea this Saturday, and then they also have the Champions League finals to play against Real Madrid. So if I were a club, I would focus my attention on both sides. But you know what? Never say never. It's football. Anything can happen.
Absolutely. And sports conversations that don't include Manchester United have become,
No, please don't. Hey.
They become, I've gotten used to it, to be honest.
No disrespect to the Manchester United fans. I mean, they pull up a great performance. Unfortunately, I do not know what happened this weekend.
4-0?
It was indeed sad.
Let's credit it to the work of what we Nigerians call village people. But that's all that we...
Well, I've honestly just gotten used to having sports conversations that don't include Manchester United. It's a club that I totally love, but...
okay, no wonder you're spotted with the red tie,
yes.
eh?
And no wonder I'm wearing a red suit.
Man U fans.
Pray
Exactly.
for us. Pray for us, Joe.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. But Joe, the good thing about this is at the end of the day, we have the spirit of sportsmanship, regardless of whether our club is winning or losing. We're supporting them and we're not breaking into the pitch to start fighting people and breaking things around. That's what the
Absolutely.
good spirit of sportsmanship should
Absolutely.
do. But thank you very much, Joe, for joining us.